Hello. Okay, so I am live on YouTube for free for the first time. I have no idea how to share this link, so I will have to do that. Let me tell everybody else. Alrighty. Oh, maybe if I go to my YouTube page. Ah, that's interesting. I guess that works. Let's see. If I click that, does it take me to my live stream? There we go. It does. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to be doing this Q&A here. I have to find where I have the tab where I'm doing this video. Or am I not doing it anymore? There it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hello. Okay. So I am doing this as a Q&A. I am going to wait for some questions. Until then, I guess I'll talk a little about the slate quickly. If you want to change something, and you may, the Atlanta, Arizona lineups came out, and Atlanta is slightly worse than they should be with Camargo and Albies at the top of the order. Both of them are extreme right-hand splits. Switch hitters, which means they are really good against lefties and really, really bad against righties. So Luke Weaver would be in a better spot for those two, although, I would still take the hell out of Freeman, Acuna, Markakis, Swanson, and probably even Flowers on this slate. They're one of my favorite stacks. Not given the price because of the way the pitching is and the rain situation in Chicago and Detroit, but they're definitely one of my favorite stacks of the day. And then I know taking 9,100 for Soroka when he is a rookie, and I mean, we really don't know what we're going to get. If you looked at the article that I wrote, you could see the pitcher list that does GIFs of his pitches. And that two-seam fastball that he has is absolutely, absolutely nasty. So he definitely has a chance here. And with the fact that Ildelmaro Vargas is leading off, Wilmer Flores, who really can't hit righties that well, is batting second now. Tim LeCastro and Carson Kelly are in the lineup, and they're pretty much guaranteed outs. I still really like Christian Walker a lot. Truth be told, I am using Christian Walker, I believe, in my lineup today. I'm doing one lineup. I can't really remember. I put it together a little bit ago. I am indeed. I'm using Christian Walker today in my lineup. So, truth be told, I do like a little bit of Arizona here. But for the most part, Soroka's in a really good spot against this lineup. So again, if you want to pay up and be contrarian there, you got 6 minutes to do it. I think he could definitely have a good game. Let's see. I don't know how to post the link. All right. Someone is trying to get into the video to ask some questions, and I would love to have him be able to do that. So let's hope that he gets in here. VFL, when you're in here, just let me know, and I will. Oh, thank you, Young Sinatra. I really appreciate it. I knew someone would be able to post the link. It's hard to do it on the phone when I'm trying to do everything on the desktop and manage everything and answer questions and do the same thing. So let me finish up with this early slate real quick, and then I'll get to questions. So the next game, Giants Nationals. Corbin is the best play on the slate. Duggar leading off now. He's extreme reverse, so lefty is actually good for him. But I mean, this is not a good lineup. You can take a chance and be really contrarian, but I definitely wouldn't have gone there. And then the National stack is probably the best stack of the day on this slate, at least. You have the winds blowing out to left field at 10 miles an hour, which isn't, the biggest boost in the world, but that's a big enough boost to righties when going against a left-handed pitcher with extreme splits that I am going to load up. And that is indeed the stack that I went with in my single. I went with Robles, who's leading off instead of batting ninth. So that is, I don't know how you don't go there. And then Rendon moved up to the 2-hole. Amazing. I also, like I said, love Gomes and think Defoe is really sneaky at the bottom of the order. So I played those 4. And then the decision came to, do I want to take a cold Zimmerman, a cold Dozier, Michael A. Taylor, who I'm not a big fan of, or go a little against the grain and take a lefty on lefty with Soto, even though he is also an extreme splits guy, and that, an extreme splits lefty and an extreme splits righty going against each other doesn't really bode well for the hitter. So he's not the best play, but assuming that they get to the bullpen, he's going to still have a field day today. Even if Pomeranz gets him out 1 or 2 times, the rest of the team should knock him out pretty early. Next game is White Sox Tigers. With the rain in here, it's a little sketchy. I think it's going to play. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think if any kind of major rain moves in, it's not going to be until towards the end of the game. Take that for what it's worth. I used to fall asleep watching the Weather Channel. One of the reasons I love Mike Trout so much is because of how obsessed he is with the weather, just like I am. So I love weather. And I might be wrong because, people who get paid to do weather are wrong, but I think this game should be fine. If you want to take starting pitching, I think it should be fine. If anything, the light rain is going to be a boost, and the cold weather is just going to be a boost to them. So it's not going to be as bad as you may think. If the rain moves in the 7th or 8th inning, are you really expecting, Ivan Nova or Tyson Ross to get that far anyway? So I know I wouldn't. And you can always play the bats when it's something like that. With Ross pitching, give me any and all lefties. Tyson Ross is fantastic. He's a slider pitcher. And slider pitchers are generally very, very I can VFL. I can do NBA too. Like I said, I can do anything in this video. I have no problem whatsoever. Let me ask you though, when you asked about cash and GPP, did you mean baseball or NBA? Because my philosophy and my approach to both would be very, very different depending on the sport. So let me know that, and I'll get to that after I finish this early slate here. So I think that while a lot of people aren't going to go there, I really like the left-handed White Sox, which means Garcia, Moncada, Alonso, who's underpriced, and Yolmer Sanchez, who, again, is cold as anything. But at 3,000 at the bottom of the order, no one's going to play him. And Tyson Ross is really, really bad against lefties. Slider pitchers like that, when that's their main pitch, the pitch breaks in on someone's hands. When a pitch breaks in on someone's hands, it's easier for them to see, easier for them to hit, and if it misses, a lot easier for them to get a handle on. You want a pitch that's going to break away from the batter so that when they swing, the ball misses the bat as opposed to just moves further down the bat. And if you miss, then, forget about it. So slider pitchers specifically, like a Tyson Ross, are people that, unless they are amazing or have a really fantastic fastball, which, again, if you're a slider pitcher, that's not too common. I think that you're generally going to go with whatever opposite-handed batters. So that's what I would do with the White Sox there. For really cheap, it'll help you fit in those expensive pitchers like Corbin or Pineda if you really want. And I believe that's lock at 12-10. So best of luck. If you want to do late swap, I'm going to finish up these two games because odds are not a lot of you had or still have a lot of spots left if you're playing DraftKings. And I assume Yahoo allows late swap. Does FanDuel allow late swap in baseball now? I think someone said that to me at some point. I also really like Ivan Nova, and I said this in my article. It kind of hurts to say that, but Ivan Nova is one of those dudes that he is really good at getting righties out. Even when he's not having a good pitching day, he's still real. Oh, that's great. So if you want to late swap on FanDuel too, even if he's not having a good day, he's still decent against right-handed bats. So when you look at the projected Tigers lineup and then the real Tigers lineup, the only lefties they have are Nico Goodrum and Jeimer Candelario. And I believe I pointed this out yesterday. Jeimer Candelario is an extreme right-hand splits batter, which means he doesn't hit righties well. He only hits lefties well. So basically you have one batter, Nico Goodrum, who's going to be any sort of a big problem for Nova, unless he just has one of those outings that, anyone can have. We've seen too many ace pitchers get blown up for you guys not to realize that anybody can have a bad day. What we're doing is trying to play the odds that people are going to ignore. For example, the fact that even though Nova is cheap and people don't want to play him and he's not the best and may not have 40-point upside, he's still good at getting righties out. And this is going to be 8 batters that he should be really, really have a really easy day of getting through. So Nova, if you're going to go down, and I do, as I talked about, my lineup is and one of the expensive pitchers, Nova, and then I did 5 Nationals and a couple White Sox, and then I think I added on Eddie Rosario because I really do think he's going to hit home run today. Yep, yeah, I got Pineda, Nova, Gomes, Walker. I got the 5 Nationals, and then I have Rosario on the top there. So I really think that Nova is going to go underrated today because people everywhere don't pay attention to splits as enough as they need to. Splits are, if you follow baseball closely, one of the most significant things. There are pitchers who just can't get out certain types of batters. A lot of lefty pitchers can't get out righty batters. That's why they move to the bullpen and become loogies, which is lefty specialists, which are people that are only used to get out lefties. Take Oliver Perez, a former Mets pitcher who they tried to turn into a starter for years and years and years before realizing that he can only get lefties out. And, 10 years after losing his starting pitching job, he's still very much employed in major league bullpens just as a lefty only reliever. I am wearing a bathrobe. Yeah, it's a bathrobe, man. I also have a shower curtain behind me with rubber duckies. Yeah, this is no joke, man. I set up like hooks on my ceiling and then hung a bath curtain. Yeah, this is I went there. I am definitely going to do NFL later this year. Yeah, I love NFL. I would like to even do golf if I have time. I love NBA, NFL, MLB is my true love, and I love golf. I watch golf for fun, even if I'm not doing it. I'm actually a Dolphins fan. I can explain that story one day. I am a New Yorker, and as a New Yorker, the Jets and Giants are both New Jersey teams, so fuck them. You want to play in Jersey? You're a Jersey team. You want to play in New York? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry too. It's tough. The Dolphins are not an easy team to root for, but I'm a Mets fan and an Islanders fan. So, until 2015 for the Mets, it was rough sledding, even, especially the 2006 with the Cardinals and the 2000 with the Yankees. That was not pleasant. Oh yeah, you get it. Oh geez. I mean, the Heat had a good run. The Steelers have a history. And the Caps, I do like the Caps. I really love the way they play. I know. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, at least we're going to have a few games where our wide receivers get, 500 collective yards, and some games when he gets 120 yards and throws 5 picks and the Dolphins lose 41-0. Oh, geez. Okay, let me finish this up, and I really do want to get to VFL's question. Okay, so you are going to be focusing on NBA, so I will answer your question for NBA. And then the last game is Toronto, Minnesota, and this one's easy. Toronto looks terrible. This lineup is a joke. The lineup that I projected would have been a joke, and the one that they put out is even worse than that. So I'll update that as soon as I can after this video, although I may not have time to do that actually. And then, we're going to draft a quarterback this year, I think, but regardless. And then the Twins against Buckholz is just a wonderful stack as well. They're my third, I would say, price considered, my third favorite stack here. Again, the Nationals with that wind blowing out slightly is just enough of a bump against Pomeranz that I'm going to take them. So with that being said, I'm going to go into some questions here. So VFL wanted to know, and I will get the exact wording of the question because I don't want to misinterpret anything. I want to be as accurate as possible. So he said, do you prefer cash or GPP or a mix of both? So I have a very weird philosophy when it comes to doing this, which is that I have about as much success in cash as I do in GPP. I found that people hit or they don't hit, and I play chalk or I don't play chalk. And in cash, it's just a pain. So philosophically for me, what I found is that since you guys know, I don't play with the biggest, the biggest stakes. If I win big, and I've won big, I just withdraw it because I have a kid and I have a mortgage and I'm disabled, so I don't get any money anywhere. I don't have another job, which is why I have so much time to put in to doing this. Unfortunately, I wish I did, but this is what I'm doing now. So I guess this is a job. 14 hours a day is a job. So where was I? So I don't do it. I would rather take that $5 and use it tomorrow for a GPP, but I don't think that's the best way to build up bankroll. I think that if you're swinging for the fences, which is what I'm doing, that's totally fine. I'm swinging for the fences. At this point, I've won enough that I am playing with house money. So I don't mind taking a GPP only route because I don't want to have, in the NBA, if I had a lineup in the regular season that was, that got like 415 points, and I put $5 into GPP and $25 into cash, and I only got, the $5 tournament out of that instead of having spread that 25 into a $12 single entry and a $1 and a $4 and the 25 cents and the 50 cents and a $3 single entry. Like the amount of tournaments you can spread your cash money out to is significant. So if you are looking for a swing for the fences philosophy, that's what I go for. If you are trying to build up bankroll, though, if you are playing the way that people recommend, which is 10% of your bankroll every day, splitting it up, that is mathematically and otherwise the safest bet. Is to go. I think they say like 90-10 cash GPP, which I think is a little much. But generally speaking, let's say you're playing $10 a day, which I know is a lot for a lot of folks. A lot of folks don't even get up to that for good reason. Who has $10 in this day and age? I think that if you're playing $10, what I would do is make sure you are in the biggest GPP that you can get into that's realistic. So I wouldn't, if there's like an $8, I wouldn't do that if you're only going to play $10 on the day and you want to help maintain a bankroll. But if the $4 that day is like the big one, I would take a chance on that because I would rather have the chance for that $4 to get like 100K than that $1 to get me 10K plus whatever $9 of cash would translate into. And then I would spend that other $6 on cash. But that is NBA specific. Yeah, I use crowns all the time. I make sure that I try to get as many as possible. I just got 25K for that thing and made platinum, and it's fantastic. So I had platinum this month from getting like almost 25K last month just in the NBA bonuses, and I already got 25K for this month. I'm up to like 41,000 just for this month, basically just from the bonuses. Because like I said, I don't play that much, so it's not like I'm putting in 15,000 crowns a day in cash. I am giving them like $10, $20, $30 in crown. Well, not now with 2 sports, but you get what I mean. I'm not giving them a lot of money to get these crowns. I'm doing it by taking advantage of the achievements and taking advantage of the daily missions, which, excuse me, really give you more tickets and more money and more everything than you might realize. So if you do play DraftKings, I definitely suggest that you get on there and make sure you're doing that every single day. But anyway, so in NBA, I think that, again, if you're building up bankroll and you want to play it safe, definitely go with the split. And for MLB, because you will eventually get into MLB, I did a whole video about this earlier, so I'm going to make this one a little shorter, but I do not play cash in baseball. Period. Baseball is a sport of failure. I don't care how chalky you are. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if the Angels clone 8 more Mike Trouts and they play 9 Mike Trouts. They could all go 0 for 4. They could get no hit. Anything can actually happen. So why, if the floor for everyone in baseball is the same and you're taking the same risk, as you would in a GPP, as opposed to other sports where you can basically assume, if you play James Harden, he's going to have a floor that you can work with. In baseball, the floor of everybody is 0. Doesn't matter how popular you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good you were in the last week or the last month, or if you're having an MVP season, if you're hitting 450 and it's September, you can have 65 home runs on the year. Anyone can go 0-4 for a week at a time and get you 0 points a day. Or in the case of Mike Trout, they can be 5,800 every day and get you 0, 2, or 3 points at 25% ownership, which is something that I would do my best to try and avoid as often as possible. And that's something that I talked about in the members video yesterday, the game theory of whether or not to fade Mike Trout every single day, which is a really interesting question. So if you are a paid member, I do suggest watching that video, because I think it's telling of game theory, not just for Mike Trout, but it's more of a philosophical question of how to deal with certain aspects of chalk when dealing with hitters and stacking in the MLB. But oh, I'm so sorry. I hope that doesn't really screw it. Yeah, I am though. I mean, MLB is my love, and I know what I'm doing. So it's just the issue is, if you are going to, well, think about this, Monkey. If you are going to play the same lineup and it's going to be, so that's that, but your cash line has just as good a chance of failure as your GPP line. And if your cash line is scoring higher, then why not use that in GPP? What do you care about ownership? If you're getting a higher score with a different way of building, then why are you sticking to this antiquated notion that you need to play a different lineup in both? If you have one way to build lineups that gets you a higher score, then make that the way you build lineups. Period. It doesn't matter. I've said this before too. Okay, so you're a FanDuel. That is a little different. Philosophically, it's a lot, philosophically, FanDuel, because of how important a pitcher win is, because of one pitcher, because of the limits and how many players you can get on a team. Well, someone did a study one time. Baseball's a sport of failure, so it's going to be a huge risk every day. Like I said, everyone can fail every day, which is why I don't want to play cash. I would rather take, again, let's take what I was talking about with the NBA. Let's say you have $10, right? You have $10, you want to play it. I would rather take that $6 that I was going to spend on cash, save that for tomorrow. That's it. If you play one quarter a day, let's say you play $1.25 a day, you are a very low stakes player. You play one quarter GPP and $1 cash every day. If you have a $10 bankroll, if you have a few bad days, and that is possible because, again, baseball is a sport of failure. Everyone can go bad, no matter how good a stack looks, no matter how good a pitcher looks. If you get a hit 1/3 of the time, you are a Hall of Famer. And I know that's a little cliche, but it's true. People who hit 333 over the course of their career are generally Hall of Famers if they last long enough in the big leagues. So, if someone who fails 67% of the time with a floor of 0 is going to be a tough thing to build cash around. So if you have a bad week, that $10 playing $1.25 every day, which doesn't seem like a lot, will last you, I think 8 days. If you stick to that one quarter GPP, you have 40 days to play. 40 days that you have a chance to win, $5,000, $2,000 generally. If you win the 25-cent GPP on DK. I don't know what it is for FanDuel, but I assume it's very similar. I would rather take 40 chances at $5,000, given how variable baseball is and how low everybody's floor is. I would rather take 40 chances at $5,000 than 8 chances at, doubling up a bunch of times. And again, when it comes to basketball, you can make assumptions. Those assumptions don't always work. And anyone here watching this video is experienced enough to know that no matter how good, it does have to be the nuts. And that's fine, but that's what you're playing for. You're trying to hit the nuts. and what you're ignoring is, even if it's not the nuts, right? Let's say that you have a good 25-cent lineup and you are, you're not winning it, but you can still get $1. You could still get $2, on that quarter. That's a hell of an ROI for a quarter in cash. No matter what, you're getting a double up in baseball. I think that cash is smart for sports that have predictable floors or decent floors. If you can say, Giannis is going to be able to do this, or, this guy is starting at shooting guard, so he's going to get 35 minutes and his PPM per game or his PPM, with this guy off the court and this guy on the court is 1.1. So we can project him to get around, 39, 40 points. Obviously, with a standard deviation, we can vary that between whatever we choose, depending on the player and how he plays, if you want to get really technical into the math of it. But in basketball, you can do that because there's no way James Harden is going to get you a 0. But there is a way that a expensive, touted, chalky baseball guy that's the most expensive play on the slate, like a Trout or a Yelich or a Bryce Harper, who's going to be 25% owned almost every slate, are going to do nothing. And when you play cash, you fail almost as much as you succeed, even if. I do like triple ups and quintuple ups a lot. I do. Let me clarify something, because cash is a very varied animal. You can talk about head-to-heads. You can talk about massive 50-50s. You could talk about, quintuple ups, quadruple ups, whatever. When I talk about cash, I'm generally talking about large 50-50s. I think that head-to-heads are fine, but you might have a guy that has good luck. You might have a guy that has bad, but I think that quintuple ups and double ups are basically like a cash GPP hybrid, and I do appreciate that. So I don't mind that as a cash way. Okay, so now I'm going to get to a next question. Let's see. I am doing NFL. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Does anyone actually play e-gaming? I don't. Jesus Christ. I mean, I know a lot of people on Counter-Strike, CSGO, they have their own gambling sites and all that. And those people go pretty nuts on that. And it's basically a way to steal money from kids because who the hell knows what's going on? And there's no like regulatory body to prevent people from throwing and everything like that. If they get caught, they get like a slap on the wrist most of the time. If they're big enough, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, that's a good point too, Eric. If you play smaller rooms in cash, the rake is less, which is, excuse me, better for you. The less rake, the more money you have the potential to make. I also want to make mention that one of the things that a lot of people don't do that I think it's a little out there, but you can wind up doing really well for yourself if you do this right, is making sure you're looking out for overlay. A lot of people are so worried about finalizing their lineups when lock is getting there that they're not looking to see what's left. I'm thinking about, excuse me, one of the tournaments yesterday. I don't know if it was the $10 baseball or $15 basketball, but it didn't even fill up. I mean, there were a couple spots that were left, but it didn't fill up. So if you have a big tournament, and granted on a site like DK or FanDuel, it's going to be a lot less common, but if you play any of the smaller sites, then I think that it would behoove you to spend the last 5 minutes before lock, looking out and seeing if some tournaments are going to fill, because that's the easiest way to get around rake, is making sure that there's overlay. And I think Eric is giving out great advice here. I think that keeping track of your score distribution, I think that everyone should keep track of a lot of things. Once the NBA season is over and I have a little less on my plate, I'm going to get back to doing reviews as to what I played and why, as well as analysis for the upcoming slate in MLB. So I'll be able to look back and, do the same kind of analysis to learn from any mistakes I may have made or plays that I thought would work and why or why not. I plan on doing that again. Well, I think I'm gonna try to explain that, Jaime. I think it's Jaime, right? Jaime DeLucio. What he means is find out how many points you're getting a night. Start yourself a spreadsheet. What I would do is start yourself a spreadsheet on Google Sheets or whatever you want to use. For whatever sport, keep a separate tab for both. And if you play, so let's say you play a bunch of different stuff, right? There's never too much information. So what I would do is set up, the spreadsheet with a column of dates, and then the score you got, the score that it took to get to the cash line in cash or GPP, the score that it took to get to the cash line in the other cash or GPP, and then you could add notes to yourself, which is what I like to do. Telling me if I, tried to build a lineup in a certain way, I could say, I tried to go 5-3 today. I went 4-3-1. I tried to use 2 one-offs. I try to make notes so that I can see over the course of a long period of time how everything works out. Because again, with baseball being a sport of failure, you have to be really, really aware of small sample sizes, because that is something that really, really kills people, especially early in the season. They look at someone who's had a couple of good games or one good game, and they think that they'll do okay. David Hess's ownership yesterday, Jamie, oh, okay. Yeah, I am Italian. My mom and everybody on that side of the family was born in Italy, so I'm first generation Italian. But I grew up in New York, in a very Hispanic area. So Jaime to me is 100% Jaime. I see that immediately, and it's Jaime. But Jamie for now on. You got it. Oh no, I forgot where I was. What was I talking about? Guys, you need to help me. Yeah, actually, to take a brief aside, when the Italians came over, they went across the Atlantic, and almost all of them came into Ellis Island. So you have an extreme distribution of Italians in the New York area, and then down to the Philadelphia area, which would be the next closest metropolis, and then it spreads out from there. The Irish came over, and a lot of them came into Boston and then came into New York. So you have a lot of Irish in Boston, and a lot of Irish that, like the Italians, spread out from New York and into Philadelphia and the surrounding area. I love the population distribution thing. It's one of the most interesting things. So, I love looking at the way New York City, for example, the different neighborhoods have built themselves up based on what immigrant populations were coming over at the time. It's just super, super interesting to see how different things, not necessarily gentrified, but, but changed how they looked with different people rubbing elbows. That's why you have a lot of African Americans with Irish names. For example, like Shaquille O'Neal is because back in the in the 20s, give or take, when the Irish first started coming over, they were spat upon in America. It was a very anti-Catholic thing back then. It's a Protestant nation, give or take. It's changed obviously in the years, but there was signs, no coloreds and no Irish. So what wound up happening was that the Irish would settle into the inner cities, and it would be with African Americans. So they became friends, and just that kind of culture sharing happened that happens when two groups come together, and it's a beautiful thing. So if you ever see that, that's why, just like you have a lot of Russian names with Cuban players for somewhat of the same reason, because of Cold War politics. But anyway, that is just me talking to you about trivia, which I could do for literally hours and hours and days. So I don't see any other questions at this point. Anyone have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm just gonna, or I could start doing a little bit of basketball. I have to look at basketball, but I can look at basketball for y'all real quick. Let's see. Let me get the thing up. Beep, 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 boop, boop. Du, du, du. All right. Yeah, I'm taking a look right now. Okay, so we got Philly, Brooklyn. I mean, we know one thing. We know one thing, and one thing for sure. If the Nets are playing and the team against them has a center, which, as far as I know, every team does, you're going to want to play that center against the Nets. So the top play of the night, it's so hard not to say Embiid if he plays, because even Embiid at 75% is absolutely nuts. I know 10,000 is a lot, for someone that might only get 20 minutes. But even though he went 24, in the first game, he got 57 DKP in those 24 minutes. I do absolutely love Boban as well. I think that obviously he doesn't have the same upside as Embiid, but the two centers that are getting the run are Embiid and Boban. Even if Embiid, with Embiid being limited, I think it's pretty safe to assume Boban is going to get the 18 to 20 minutes, and Boban at 18 to 20 minutes against the Nets I'm kind of shocked he didn't get a double-double in the last game. I think that's kind of a function of how much they were trying to block him out, but they were not really successful because, again, he still put up almost 30 points. So my favorite play is center against the Nets. So Embiid or Boban, I have no problem going to either. I think Embiid will have low ownership because of the way his minutes have come, and because I assume, again, we're not going to know about Embiid until 7:50. So I assume his ownership is going to be lower than the ceiling calls for. And Boban is going to be more owned than you would think because of that. But again, I honestly don't have a problem if you play both Embiid and Boban. I know that normally that's something that, those are two guys that would eat into each other, but this is a 3-game playoff slate. I don't think Golden State and the Clippers stay close regardless of whatever the hell last game was. I don't know what the hell last game was. I don't, the Warriors generally don't respond to something like that by coming back and not blowing the fuck out of the other team. So this is one of those games when I am really, Boban's definitely the safer pick. Absolutely the safer pick. I like I said, he's going to be almost guaranteed those minutes, and that production against the Nets is pretty much locked in stone. I mean, his PPM is one of the highest in the NBA, and that just goes up against the Nets, which is, oh God, I one of the things I don't understand, apart from why they pull people after they get 2 fouls in the first half, is why people are not playing Boban. No, I don't think so. I think that it's more of a win-one for the Gipper situation, if anything. I think that it's definitely more of a, let's win this for Cousins. And I think that, Cousins is like the cherry on top of the sundae, right? Like, the ice cream's still good. You still got some other toppings on there. You still want to eat the shit out of it. But that cherry on top is nice to have. And Cousins was pretty much a cherry on top. Like, there's no one that would argue that Golden State isn't still prohibitive favorites. I couldn't see an argument that that Houston or even the Thunder, if they get hot, could give them some problems without Cousins. But I don't think so. I mean, Harden can win anything. Yeah, I think so as well, Eric. 100%, and I'll get to there. I'm definitely I'll give a quick breakdown of all three of these games as if I was doing the article, and then I'll just reference this instead of having to write an article today, and that will take care of time. Oh, that would be so fantastic. How wonderful is that? Wow, that's pretty neat. Maybe I should do this more often with the YouTubes. Okay, so let's get back to it. So, for Philadelphia, give me the centers. I think this game is going to be the game of the slate. If I am looking to stack or run back or do anything, it is going to be here. If you're looking at the game logs, and I think you see the issue that I always have, which is that the Nets backcourt is spreading things around so much at this point. It's kind of hard to trust anybody, which means that as much as I would love to play him, I just don't want to do D'Lo today. I can't. I think that Levert and Dinwiddie, and I've talked about this too through the course of the articles, that with Levert and Dinwiddie and D'Lo all healthy and playing the minutes, I don't know. I think that it's Brown making that call. I don't think it's Simmons making that call. I think that after the first game, I think that Dinwiddie looked great and Levert looked great too. I mean, Levert is someone who, if he didn't get injured, would have finished the season over 8,000, and people wouldn't have had this, D'Lo renaissance that we had, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. D'Angelo Russell is a fantastic player, and as someone who does root for the Nets, I really love the kid. But him and Dinwiddie and Levert eat into each other, because all three of them want to take all the shots. And, Levert wants to work to the hoop, and D'Lo wants to work to the hoop, and Dinwiddie wants to, get the ball passed back to him so he can, take a shot. I love the idea of playing one of the middle guys, so a Levert or a Dinwiddie in a GPP. I just don't think they're safe enough for cash. I honestly, though, with this slate, 5,000 play, there's not a lot of safer dudes than that. So I also think that, I agree. But that's the thing. They are on the court the same a lot of the time, apart from if you go to Popcorn Machine and you look at the way the Nets were rotating things, and if you saw that 10,000 character piece of an article I did on the Nets a couple months back, I've dug into these Nets rotations. D'Lo will start out without Levert and Dinwiddie on the floor. He will generally start out without either of those guys. They'll have like Harris and DeMarre Carroll playing shooting guard and small forward. And then when they get rotated out, Dinwiddie and Levert come in. But after that, it's kind of crazy. You see it's pretty much at least two of them are going to be on the court with each other at the same time, which always is going to eat into one another. Levert and D'Lo played really well together at the beginning of the year when Dinwiddie was ice cold, but it's just been a different ballgame the last month. And I've played my fair share of all three of them, but it's just, they eat into each other too much to trust any of them as much as you would like. That doesn't mean that they don't have significant ceiling today, because they 100% absolutely do. What I would prefer to do, apart from, saving money and going with the smaller price plays, is take whoever is going to be matched up against Redick, because the weak link, apart from power forward, at which you can't really use on the Nets to attack anybody anyway. The weak link on the Sixers is going to be shooting guard. Simmons was a top 10 defender, give or take, with DPRM almost all year. Butler was one of the top defenders. Embiid was in and out of the top 10 all year. These are guys. Boban is absolutely nuts. Boban is someone who can just kind of stand like this and get like 3 blocks a game, because he's like 8'7". It's ridiculous. Those guys are good defenders. Yes, absolutely. And I'll get to that too. Those are my favorite. Those are on these slates my favorite punt priced plays, and I'll talk about that later, because Pop does the playoffs way differently than Pop does the regular season, and Pop loves those bench guys in the playoffs. Yeah, Gary Harris looked really good a couple games ago, but he's one of those riskier guys like a Dinwiddie. I don't love him the way I love some of those cheaper Spurs guys, but that might be me looking the last couple of years as well. elsewhere from this game, I'm gonna try to get to this quicker. I think that after what happened in game one and how well game two worked, that they are going to keep it the exact same way. So we're going to see a lot more Simmons running the point, with Butler doing, sticking more to defense like they did earlier on, before they were trying to get Butler to run the point more to get ready for the playoffs. I just think that, given the way this Nets team is built and the weaknesses they have, it makes a lot more sense to let Butler focus there, since Simmons does a fine enough job running the point on his own, and it's not like D'Lo is going to stop him. I've been paying attention to DPRM or DRPM. DPR. I can never remember. I'm dyslexic, so that makes that kind of shit really hard. I've been paying attention to that for years now, and for a while, D'Lo was the worst. He was the Trae Young, the Colin Sexton of a couple of years ago. He was far and away the worst defender. So while he has made stark improvements, and he's much better than he was, much higher than 0 on a scale of 10 is 4. That doesn't make you any good. So it was a difference in game theory. If from what I saw, they were letting Butler run the point more in game one, and they were letting Simmons do, and you might be right, it might have been a function of Simmons playing poorly. I'm taking that information based on reports from 2 months ago from the Philadelphia newspapers and the Philadelphia beat writers that said that TJ McConnell was going to get less playing time, and they were going to do a lot more staggering of Simmons and Butler, letting Butler run the second unit so that he could have, quote, practice running point for the postseason, or in apprehension of the postseason. So the whole idea going into the playoffs for the last couple months was to get Butler in a place where he can run point, either when he's running the second unit, or instead of Simmons at point. So I think that this is a difference in coaching philosophy for the playoffs that they have been preparing for. And I think that what you are going to see is basically what you've seen. Simmons is not going to have too many bad games against the Nets. It's always possible. And if game one happens when he is doing poorly, then Butler's going to run a little more point when they're both on the floor, and he should run a lot more point when, the second unit is out. But if Simmons is playing the way he played in game two, then they're just going to let Simmons out there running the point for, the 30 plus minutes, because that he was nasty. And if they're not going to stop him, they have no reason to stop letting him just go ham, especially with Embiid out. They need one of those guys to do it if Embiid is limited. So I think that it's safe to take one of them, because one of them is going to need to do something. That one person is not going to be TJ McConnell. And with, again, if Embiid's 24 minutes, which he could still produce for, it's just not going to work for the Sixers the way that team is set up without someone like a Butler or a Simmons successfully running the point and getting that double-double that you need. They need someone that's going to be able to attack the rim, because the Nets are so weak at center. They can attack them with centers, but they can also attack, any way they want. It's just... It's pathetic. So, that's where I would go on the Sixers. That's who I would focus on. Embiid / Boban, and then Simmons or Butler. I think Harris is okay, but he's just not going to be the focus. And I think Redick, his price at the beginning, the 5,800. Was, a absolutely not. I would take a GPP stab on him for 4,800. If he gets hot, if you look at the season numbers, Redick was, I believe, the second biggest beneficiary with Embiid off the floor after Simmons. So, well, you have to add Harrison to that midseason, but regardless, Redick generally was the second biggest beneficiary when Embiid was off the court or missed a game. So I think that 4,800, I know, that's why I said GPP. But all it takes is a shooting dependent person to get hot one game. That's it. He hits 8 threes for you at 4,800. That's, damn. That's excluding anything else that he does for you. And it's, while I don't project 8 threes, I project that he could take a hell of a lot more than that, especially without Embiid. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Redick is a GPP play today. I don't trust him, but he's not 5,800 anymore. He's 4,800. He's going to hit value if he gets you under 25 DKP. And Redick has way too many games of that, of that in just raw points, that you can't take a chance on him against, against this Nets team. I would also point out that he's going to have a tougher time when LeVert is on the court, assuming they would put LeVert on him if those two share the court, but I don't know why they would. And if you look at the defensive rankings, both Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie are in the bottom 5 at shooting guard. So while Redick has been doing poorly, Redick's poor performance is a function of Redick having bad games. It's not a function of the game environment. The game environment is one that you could trust him to exceed what he would normally do, regardless, again, who the hell knows in sports. But if you look at all of the math, Redick in this matchup with Embiid limited against those defenders is a plus. So I wouldn't go there for 6,000, but 4,800 is just way too cheap for him. That's really, all I love here. I can understand taking a run on Ed Davis. I would assume he's not injured anymore and he's going to not have 6 minutes. I don't know if he's going to get the 30-something DKP, 36.5 that he got in the first game of the series. I don't think he's going to get 25 minutes, but Jarrett Allen is that bad. And Ed Davis, yeah, that's right. He can go off any given game. I think Curry gets more usage with Boogie out, but I'll talk to you about that when I get there. So, I can understand going to a DeMarre Carroll. I can understand going to an Ed Davis, but those are also, GPP plays. But again, 3-game slate when those games could blow out. I'm not a big fan of KD in this against the Clippers. I like KD just fine, but the Clippers have 2 glaring weaknesses, and I don't know why they would. I mean, if you look at the Basketball Monster DVP rankings that I put out or I posted for you guys all the time, the Clippers defense was like a reverse parabola, like a reverse bell curve. Like it was really terrible for shooting guards, and then one of the best in the NBA against small forwards, and then one of the worst against centers, and in the middle for SG and PF. So it was something that, while I was surprised by that, all the numbers backed it up consistently. So if you have the chance to attack them, you're going to attack them through point guard and through center. And I think that you saw that, especially in game 1 with how Curry did. Yeah, Carroll is a dart, especially with how much they're going to need him to play D and how many stats. He's like a better PJ Tucker, DeMarre Carroll, with a slightly higher ceiling, but getting slightly lower minutes, which is going to hurt. But that's basically what I associate DeMarre Carroll with. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Eric. This is my first time doing this, so I am definitely new to this. I will start referencing the questions specifically when I answer them instead of just reading it off from the live chat. I apologize to anyone watching this after the fact if it's a little hard for you to follow. I'm going to move to, oh boy, it's almost at an hour already. I only want to do these for an hour. Well, I got 2 more games left, so I will get to Denver San Antonio right now. Denver San Antonio is a really interesting series in that it's playing a lot closer with more scoring than I had expected. I really didn't think that it was going to be this close, and I thought the games would be more along the, like 100 to 85 point, give or take the way that these teams have been playing recently and the way that the playoffs have worked. But these have been good games, and I think that that they're going underrepresented, and I think that there's a couple places you can attack. So obviously, Jokic is a freak, and you could play him anytime. He is drastically underpriced at 9,400, especially considering that. Let me get it specifically. I know he's put up like 55 both games. He's put up 55.5 and 54.25 in the 2 games at 9,400. That's 6 times at 9,400. that's a safe bet. So I would say that I think he would be the safest play today anywhere. I am fine with going Jokic Boban or Jokic Embiid if you want to be a little riskier, but I love Jokic today. The Spurs, played some great D at the end of the year, and that is dramatically understating it. They had a weird season, man. If you followed basketball as closely as I did, the Spurs started out the season as one of the 3 worst defenses, and then they spent like a month and a half as one of the best defenses. They were like 1 or 2, and then there was like a month that they were again one of the worst defenses, and then they ended the season as one of the best defenses again. There was never a middle time. They were either like giving up 600 points a game or nothing. It was amazing to watch how they could change with the same personnel basically so quickly and then for so long and then just snap back. But regardless, the point is, or the point that I was making is that the one weakness that they've shown this year, regardless, is centers. Poeltl, I'll never get that name right, is not the best defender if he's going to get a lot of center minutes, and Aldridge is bottom 5 in DRPM as well. So Jokic, no matter what, is going to have a day today. I don't really want to play any of the other expensive guys from Denver. I don't mind Millsap because of the matchup against LMA. I think that he's fine enough. When you're talking about the mid-priced people, he would be one of my favorites, but it's not someone that I am looking to. Yeah, it's Pop. Pop is a glorious coach. I agree, Eric. It's not someone that I'm going to be focusing on getting in my lineup. And if I could get the star scrubs that I want, I'm going to go there for this. But good luck. I also think that his prices come up for good reason, but Gary Harris has been playing like healthy Gary Harris. And I don't know if he was waiting for the playoffs or what, but Gary Harris has looked really good these couple games. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Derek White is really, really good. He by the end of the season, he was the number 1 ranked point guard defensively. So as nice as Jamal Murray has been, the way Jamal Murray has been playing, if you were playing against a less competent team, or if you were playing against, the Nets or the Clippers and their guard defense, Jamal Murray would be one of the first locks I have today, but not against Derek White, not the way he's been playing. And part of that has trickled down, as you often see, to Gary Harris. So he's getting a little bit more of the responsibility, which is great. For his production. I mean, anytime you see in the playoffs, you don't see swings like this, but in 2 games to go from 39 to 45 to 5,100 is significant. And that is really emblematic of the way, isn't that crazy? White is insane. That dude people don't understand. You have to look at numbers and you have to watch some games. And that goes to every sport. I'm sorry. You have to understand how these people play. Numbers don't tell you effort. Numbers don't tell you the guys that are going to dive after a ball. Numbers don't tell you the guys that are jumping in the lane. Numbers don't tell you a lot of the things that you need to see to know who are the max effort players. The max effort players, the guys that are giving as much as they can every time, are the guys that we have to either get or we have to worry about. And in the case of Derek White, he is defensively as good as we're going to see. I think that when he is playing as well as he can, he is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what I would also say, so I really do like Harris here. I think that's it though for Denver. On the Spurs side, I'm going to keep going to Poeltl. I'm still going to be going to Jakob Poeltl, I assume. Petal? Yeah, whatever. I apologize. One day I'll get that one right. I still think that given the height of Denver with Jokic and Millsap, and I mean, just the way that Denver plays, he needs to start at center. It's not a small ball lineup. They're not going to go small at any point. He's going to need to get the minutes, even if it is only 20 to 24. I will still take that. Now, that being said, he's like 8th on my center list, but he is worth mentioning because 3,900 is 3,900. And sometimes you just need that last spot for 3,900. Poeltl, thank you. Poeltl, Jakob Poeltl, thank you. I really appreciate that. Eric, thank you. Poeltl. So I do like his upside, and while with how popular I expect Boban to be, I can understand pivoting there, but I can't. I mean, I like him, and I think that there are going to be other times when I'm going to really hammer him, and I have, but I can't go there given the other players today. I also think that you can absolutely run out DeRozan and give a good chance to LMA. I think that DeRozan flipped his playoff switch. I think him and Kawhi switched places, and they both switched the playoff switches. So we're going to see them. You're going to see them going off. Yeah, I always watch them, Ryan. I always watch everything on mute. I just like to watch the games. I think DeRozan is a great play, especially at that price. I would expect him to get similarly, 45 or so DKP. The Spurs are attackable. They're still good, but they're attackable at the perimeter. So with White having to focus his attention, on defense, I think DeRozan is going to have a hell of a game. And that being said, White is fantastic. I think he has a safe floor. I don't think he has a ceiling. So if you want to play him in cash and you got 4,900, go nuts. But that's not someone that I'm really considering. Ditto for pretty much anyone else in the mid tier on San Antonio. San Antonio, I like the top guys, and then I want to go down. So, granted, while everything can always change, the way Pop works the playoffs is he leans really heavy on Mills and Bellinelli. And he's done this for years now. He will rest them in the regular season. He will keep them warm going into the playoffs so that he can play them 20 plus minutes a game. And while they have not produced, they have both gotten those minutes. And when you are talking Patty Mills at 3,400 and Bellinelli, at 3,200. Ooh, I'm going to need to take a drink. Sorry, folks. Oh, boy. Oh, caffeine free. Just the way no one likes it. When you have a 3,200 and a 3,400 game player, I guess the pain medicine's starting to kick in. When you have a 3,200 and a 3,400 priced player who are going to get 20 to 24 minutes, are going to have their fair production. Bellinelli's going to put up some 3-pointers and Patty Mills is going to run some point. I just think that the last 2 games are not emblematic of the way the Pop uses these guys, except from a minutes perspective. And I am really big on both Mills and Bellinelli. Yeah, I really, really like both of them a lot. And they're going to almost certainly be my 2 favorite punts of the day. Right? It's crazy. 3,200 points. 3,200 points is a record. Even Harden can't do that. Okay, let's move on to the last game. I'm going to talk about Golden State first. I have a few questions here. Eric asked, do you think KD and Green will get big usage with Boogie out? I think that Green is Green. I don't think that Green's usage is necessarily going to go up. I think that what's going to happen is he's going to just keep filling the role that he does, which is, I don't even know. He's like the Draymond Green. I really can't explain it. He runs the point sometimes, he gets the rebounds. He doesn't like to shoot, but it's not someone that I explicitly trust. He's someone that I generally consider a cash game play. I think I've explained this in an article. Yeah, exactly. He plays every role. Draymond Green, thank you, Eric. Draymond Green plays every role but scorer. He can, but he's a defensive dude who can get some dimes, and that's impressive. It's impressive. I don't think he'd be anywhere near as good as he would be. But as Eric said, you're praying for the peripheral points. What I've said about Dre Green in my articles over the course of the season is Dre Green should be priced about 7,000 every game. I would expect him to get about 35 points every game, given the way he plays, given everything else. Oh, okay. You got it, Joker. Eric Joker. You got it. Thank you, Joker. I would expect Draymond Green to get about 35 points every game, 35 DKP, I should say, not 35 real points. I don't expect him to get 35 points in a series. I expect him to get about 35 DKP every game, so he should be priced at about 7,000. The further away you get from 7,000, the more intriguing he is in terms of everything else. The lower, the better. So when Dre Green was getting like 5,800 at some points in the season, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was sitting at 5,800 for a little bit, he was really interesting because I expect him to get 30 to 35 points, but he's 6,700 now. And no matter who plays or who's out, I expect him to get 35 or so points. So not so much. I think that when you are looking at the Clippers, and I said this before, the Clippers are pathetic at defending point guard and center. So while I loved Cousins, I think that most of the distribution in this game is going to go to Curry as opposed to Durant. I think that Curry, even last game, he got you five times, and he could have done significantly better than he did. Now, I don't expect 15 rebounds or whatever. Yeah, 15 rebounds like he got in game one. I would never expect 15 rebounds from Steph Curry again. But I wouldn't expect one. So I would say that for the price, I do love Curry, but I also believe, as I said before, that I don't think this game stays close. I really don't think that the Warriors respond to a loss like that at home against a bad Clippers team. Sorry, Clippers fans, against a bad Clippers team. I just don't. I don't expect them to do anything but end this game by the half. So I think that you can't predict blowouts, and that's fair. And on a 3-game slate, it's kind of crazy to do so. But I also know that, having looked at the ownership projections every day. No. I'll get to that, Joker. They'll get it no matter what. I'll talk about Lou and Harrell later. I like them regardless. But on the Warrior side, they're going to keep saving those people for the finals. The Clippers need to give everything now, so they're not holding anything back. But the Warriors still have a long field to hoe. They're going to get some bad opponents, and that is also assuming they get the Bucks in the finals, who I think they beat, but it's going to be a lot tougher without Cousins. I think the Bucks are much more legit than people give them credit for, and I think people give them a lot of credit. It's like when I say the Beatles are underrated, and people think I'm crazy. I think the Bucks are underrated, as crazy as that might seem. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So I'll get to there later, Eric, and I'll mention it later. I think that the first person that you could almost lock in for Golden State every one of these games is Iguodala. Iguodala is like a Bellinelli or a Mills, in that when the playoffs come, he gets that run. And I think that we are more likely to see Dre move over to the 5 and Durant move over to the 4, with Iguodala entering the lineup a lot of times, than we are to see like a Bogut or a Looney enter the lineup, because against this Clippers team, you don't really need to go that big. And Dre Green should be able to handle Zubac or Zubats. I'm so bad with those names. You know who I mean. The whoever is playing center for the Clippers, Green should be able to handle him without a problem, even if he doesn't shoot. So Zubat, thank you, like the Pokemon. So I think that Iguodala is going to get extra run. I think that he's going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of Cousins being out. And I think that with Iguodala on the floor, you have to consider a couple of things, which is how good catch and shoot players Curry and Clay are, especially Clay. But I think that Iguodala getting more run equals Curry and Clay having a much greater chance for extra production today. Iguodala is a fantastic distributor, and having him and Dre on the court together with those two guys is going to really open this game up. It's going to be extremely nasty. And, I think that, I don't know what I always want to call it pop rate because of baseball, but the time that it takes for Clay to catch and shoot is one of the lowest in the league, and one of the only people that beats him is Curry. And if you look at people who take the fewest dribbles per possession, I believe it has been a few weeks since I looked at that, but the people who take the fewest dribbles per possession was Clay running away. So basically, Clay is just going to be a catch and shooter. So having Iguodala and Dre on the court at the same time would be a huge bump to Clay. If you think this game stays close, or even if you don't, because we've seen him get 30 real points in a quarter, Clay is a fantastic play, and even more so if Iguodala is announced as the starter. His release time, thank you. I always want to say pop time. Thank you, Eric Chalker. So I really do. Those are the guys that I really love here. I am not big on Durant. I think that, as I was mentioning it before, if you have looked at ownership projections from the different places about these games, specifically, anytime Golden State has been on a slate in the playoffs so far, pretty much every one of these players has been over 40% owned. So you are taking a Curry and a Durant together at way like 45, 48% ownership. And I just don't think that given this game environment, you can count on that, especially again, given that the only position that the Clippers had a good run at defending this year was small forward. And, granted, I do think he's going to be playing a lot more power forward today with Cousins out. I still think that the best way to attack the Clippers is going to be with point guards or with the shoot guards, with the catch and shoot guards, I should say. So I would say that Curry, Iguodala, and Clay in that order would get my biggest bumps and would be the three people that I like the most on this team, and they're the three people that I'm going to be given the most consideration to. The Clippers is a different animal. Someone in the chat alluded to it before. I think Eric said it before. That blowout run doesn't really it doesn't matter for the team that's getting blown out if you're in the playoffs, because what are you going to rest people? If you are the Clippers and you are going against the Warriors, let's say there is a 30-point lead at the half, which honestly, I don't think is that crazy. I don't think any of you would say that a 30-point lead for the Warriors, even in LA against the Clippers at Staples, is going to be that crazy. But if that happens, I'm sure that that Kerr's going to run out the starters for at least the beginning of the third quarter or the second half, but they're going to get a lot of backups in. They're going to get the people that you're not going to want to play. I'm going to mention them. That doesn't mean you could play them because they're not going to get enough minutes. The Quinn Cooks and the Livingstons and the Lees and the Jerebkos. They got McKinney on the bench. They got Bell. These are guys that made it so that even when you assume the Warriors were going to blow people out in the regular season, you didn't have those backup blowout people, because the backup people and the blowout people are different on the Warriors a lot of times. So those aren't people that you're going to want to play, but those are the people that are going to get minutes if this game doesn't stay close. And that means that the Clippers are going to want to try to come back as much as they can. And that means putting Lou Will and Montrezl in there as much as they can, because those are the two guys that are going to eat the most against these backups and against the second and third units of the Warriors team. So those are the two guys. Yeah, right. Curry and Joker's right. Curry and Staples is ridiculous on top of everything else. I'm not generally a narratives guy, but there are some people, take LeBron when he goes to New York. It just works. It just works. That's really funny. Okay, I hope you can read chat because these guys are great and I love them all. So if you're looking at the Clippers, I think regardless of blowout, Lou Will and Montrezl are going to be my two absolute favorite plays here. I think that regardless, they are going to get the minutes. Regardless, they are going to get the shots. I don't think there's any way they don't. I know Pat Bev has been giving Clay fits here and there because that's what Pat Bev does. And first of all, let me say I love that, because I hate Dre Green about as much as I hate anybody, because I don't like dirty players that try to win by getting other people angry. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like people that intentionally kick people in the nuts. I don't like people that instigate and antagonize. I don't mind trash talking, but there's a line that you can draw, and I know I'm probably alone there, but I just don't like the way I see Dre Green play dirty. I think that they are a good enough team that they don't need to do that, and it's just immature for for how well everyone else on that team besides Durant and his alt Twitter accounts handle themselves. Yeah, don't get me started on that, Jamie. The Thunder should have won that series, and I will never forgive Durant for leaving the Thunder after he being the reason that the Thunder lost that series when they were up 3-1. So the other person that I want to talk about here on the Clippers, and the last person I'm going to talk about is Gallo, and I've talked about this before in my articles. There is a stark contrast. I don't know how to word this either, in a way that I want. The Clippers' 2 units are about as stark as any 2 units in the NBA. In the first unit, you have a mix of SGA and Pat Bev taking some usage, but Gallo's the monster there. If Gallo is on the floor with the starting unit, Gallo is going to be the man. He's going to take the shots. He's going to get a bunch of rebounds. He's going to put up the points, and you can see that with the fact, I think it was 42 last game. I don't remember the first game. 42 last game and 33 the game before. So even at 7,000, 33 is not going to kill you. 42, 6x on more than 6x on 69. Nice. So Gallo is going to get that run. If this game stays close, he's going to get that run. Now, Gallo is one of the people that I don't think will get as much run if this game blows out. I think that they leave that to Lou Will and Montrezl and the second unit, so he's a little more risky, and I think that was shown in why he got less points in game 1 than in game 2, because obviously game 2 stayed closer with the Clippers winning. So I think that Gallo is also a fantastic play if you don't care about blowout, because if this game stays close, for most of the first quarter and for most of the third quarter, Gallo is going to be the lead dog, and he's probably going to get a bunch of run by himself in the second and fourth as well, assuming that this game isn't close, because I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Lou Will and Harrell come in, Harrell come in midway through the third and then just stay in for the rest of the game. So that is it. Thank you for watching my first live YouTube stream. I went an hour and a half, which is not bad. If you liked it, I hope you can join me at bathrobesports.com and sign up for a membership. I do a video like this every day where I'll answer questions and I will talk about different sports and different lineups and game theory and anything and everything that you want to ask me. So thank you for joining me here, folks. I love you all. Robe Nation going to win a GPP tonight. I love you, and thank you very much.